I'm very much honored and happy to be here today in this exalted assembly and discussing these important topics of environmental consciousness, which is sustainability, actually then conflict avoidance, which means peace on earth, and Dharma traditions. And I would also like to focus my little talk today on the point of Dharma. Because as Mataji already said, when we properly follow Dharma, then the other two aspects are also nicely taken care of. Yeah? Dharma has to be understood correctly. There are two kinds of Dharma. There is a naimitic Dharma and a eternal Sanatan Dharma. Yeah? The naimitic Dharma, the temporary Dharma, this is appointed to one's body. Like we may be now in a human body. Some souls are in an animal body, some souls are in a plant body. And according to their bodies, they have a certain temporary activity to perform. Yeah? But this is only temporary. We may be students in this lifetime. We may be a father or mother or teachers. Yeah? Or we may be in some animal body or in some plant body. But it's very temporary. Just for a few years it fits. And then we get another body and we have another naimitic Dharma. But what remains is the Sanatan Dharma. What is always there is the Sanatan Dharma. And we have to understand that we are eternal. We are an eternal spirit soul. This, what we see externally, this is just a covering, a material covering. But in the core of our being, what permeates the body, what gives it life and what gives it consciousness is the Atma. Yeah? And the Atma is by nature Ananda Mayo Vyasat. It's one sutra from the Vedanta Sutra. Yeah? It is pleasure seeking. The Atma is pleasure seeking. It has three components: eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Yeah? And because we are Atma in the core of our being, we are looking for happiness everywhere. Yeah? But because we do not understand that we are eternal, we are looking for the happiness in the temporary world, in the material world, which is so fleeting. And if we put ourselves as the ahankar in the center and we want to enjoy, because there we have the nature of the Atma, naturally it creates conflicts. Because when I want to enjoy, maybe I interfere with the enjoyment of another person. Yeah? Wars can come about from that understanding. And if I want to enjoy, naturally there will be exploitation. Yeah? Mother Earth will be exploited because I want to have all these opulences, all these things to have a comfortable life. So, but when we think on our true nature, and there is a wonderful verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Puran, which say, Savai Pung Sang Paro Dharmo, Yato Bhaktir Adhokshache, Ahaito kya pratyata yayatma suprasidati. Yeah? Savai Pungshang, for all humanity. Parodharma, the Parodharma, the highest Dharma, the Sanatan Dharma. Yato Bhaktir Adhokshache. Is bhakti, is devotional service. The highest Sanatan Dharma is devotional service, is bhakti yoga to Adhokshacha. Adhokshacha is the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the reach of our material senses. Yeah? Such bhakti has to be performed ahaito kya pratyata, uninterrupted, and with no selfish motivation. In this world, we are active with the motivation, what's in for me? Yeah? I, me, and mine. But we need to have a change of understanding, a shift of consciousness, a reality check. Yeah? We should not do the mistake to put ourselves, means the ahankar, in the center of attraction and everything else, but we should put the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the center and see what is in for him, how to please the Lord. And the example is given, if we water the root of the tree, then naturally all the leaves of the tree become nourished. In this way, everybody becomes satisfied. And what is in the first, what we just heard from the Bhagavad Puran, the conclusion, if we act according to our eternal Sanatan Dharma, yayatma suprasidati, the Atma will be fully satisfied. This is what we are all looking for. We are all looking for bliss and harmony in life. But it's not possible on the temporary material level. It's simply not going to work. It will always create conflicts. It will always create exploitation. Only if we again concentrate on our true core as eternal spirit souls. And each spirit soul, we hear from the Bhagavad Gita, Aivangsho Chivaloke Chivabhuta Sanatana, is an eternal fragmental part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the Shri Ishopanishad, it is stated, Sarvasya, the Sarvasya principle, which means the Lord is the controller and the owner of the moving and the non-moving. Everything is controlled and owned by the Lord. So he is the one who actually is worth of our focus and our attention. And then we are actually able to perfectly take care of environmental consciousness and perfectly take care of conflict avoidance. Then there will be peace and harmony in the world. I would like to share with you one beautiful prayer from the Bhagavad Puran, also spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, a very wonderful, saintly Vaishnava. He was just a 5-year-old boy, and he was fully dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he spoke as follows. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga, for by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Shri Krishna, and always be absorbed in thoughts of him. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Damodara, for your wonderful statement. Really, I like this connection that you did between happiness and eternity, this notion of eternity, the notion of blessing knowledge, and for that we need silence, no? Silence. We need more silence, and to be with us, inner peace. And we have another prominent speaker. He's one of the most experts, we can say, in Switzerland on Hinduism, because you are chairing, you are the Secretary General of the Swiss Federation of Hinduism. You make some books, 6 books on Hinduism, and also, but it is coming from your deep knowledge study on comparative religions in Freiburg, also a PhD program in St. Gallen. And then thank you very much for coming here, and please share with us some of your experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Namaste, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. You must all be thinking, why are all these people speaking when Swamiji is here? So we're going to come there. We will keep it short because when the sun is there, the stars really go away. So His Holiness Jeeyar Swamiji, Excellencies, delegates, respected faith leaders and change makers, Prashantji of the Dharma Alliance, it is an honor to be here with you at a place dedicated to the shared hopes of humanity and to speak on a subject that unites all living beings, the care of our common home. Thousands of years ago, the Bhagavad Gita spoke words that echo powerfully today. Of course, Jeeyarji already gave you the first verse. I will give you the two remaining verses. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmaksharasamudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yagne pratishtitam evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati hayaham aghayurindriyaramo mogham parthasa jivati. In these verses, Lord Krishna speaks of the cosmic cycle, the chakra, the wheel of life in which each being fulfills its sacred role towards all other beings. To ignore this cycle, to consume without contribution, is to live in vain. This is not just spiritual poetry, it is a call to ecological responsibility. We could say the most ancient call to ecological responsibility. Across the Indian subcontinent and beyond, the Dharmic communities have long practiced what we now call sustainability. In Hinduism, sacred groves like those in Kerala are protected as homes of deities and biodiversity alike. Jain monks, as we have heard, observing ahimsa, non-violence or non-injury, not only avoid harming animals, but even sweep the ground before their footpath when they walk, so to protect the smallest life forms. Buddhist monasteries across the Himalayas manage forest lands with reverence and restraint, acting as guardians of endangered ecosystems. And Sikhism, with its deep commitment to seva, selfless service, has inspired tree planting drives and clean water projects across Punjab and beyond. These are not isolated acts. These are systems of knowledge, dharmic environmental principles that emphasize restraint, balance, and reverence for all life. Some of the moral failures, I would like to say this. I know we are in the interfaith and we are in the United Nations here, but it has to be said. Some of the moral failures to recognize the sacred interdependence of life can actually be traced to the Abrahamic worldviews of subjugating nature. And this has to be acknowledged because the Dharmic worldview does not subjugate nature. Yeah, so this, in the exchange, in the dialogue, we have to talk about this. The Dharmic traditions offer practical tools. Climate resilience through localization, as we have heard, as seen in organic, community-based farming models inspired by Vrikshayurveda, and, for instance, Buddhist permaculture. Water ethics, as we have also heard, like the practical protection of rivers, which are seen not just as waters, but as mothers, as living goddesses from the time of the Rigveda, the Nadi Suktam. Pollution reduction through lifestyle ethics like aparigraha that we have already heard, the non-possessiveness, as well as santosha, contentment, which challenge the consumerism that drives the ecological collapse. These principles can guide faith-based contributions to multilateral environmental agreements like the Paris Agreement and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and anchor policy in ethics. environmental conflicts over forests, rivers, minerals often entangle communities in deep tension, yet in many parts of the world, faith leaders and traditions become peacemakers. In Ladakh, Buddhist monks and Muslim imams co-lead community negotiations on glacier water sharing, an interfaith response to climate scarcity. In Karnataka, Hindu forest priests work alongside tribal and government bodies to resolve disputes over access to sacred groves. In Gujarat, Jain community elders help broker peaceful relocations and compensation agreements when sacred lands face industrial encroachment. These very few examples show that faith can indeed mediate where law alone cannot reach. Through trust, shared values, and a commitment to non-violence, non-injury. When this ethical view expands across just one faith and becomes interfaith, an interfaith perspective, it is a powerful antidote to ecological violence. This aligns with the UN General Assembly's recognition of the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. Dharmic faith traditions united across doctrine can become the moral engine, or at least one of the moral engines, of this right. Lastly, I would like to say we must listen to youth, to the younger generation, to let them invest their ideas and invite them to the table. What is the use when mostly older people are talking about these things? What is the use in the longer term? In Rajasthan, there is a 16-year-old Sikh climate activist, Gurleen Kaur, and she leads a green langar movement which transforms communal kitchens into zero-waste hubs. A 16-year-old. That's amazing. She's inspired by the Guru Granth Sahib's reverence for the elements of nature. Without dialogue between the generations, our wisdom grows stagnant. Without the interfaith unity, our compassion remains partial. And without the ecological consciousness, our future is in danger. Let us revive the cosmic wheel that Lord Krishna spoke of, the cycle of giving and receiving. May we leave behind not just cleaner air and safer water for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, but a deeper reverence for life itself, as Sri Sri Ramanujacharya taught in his great Bhashya, his great commentary, and his very own representative is with us here today. It is incredible. It is the highest representative of Hindu Dharma to ever come to Switzerland in the form of His Holiness Jeeyar Swamiji.
Thank you very much, Dr. Acharva, for your statement. You sent us very strong messages today. I like it that you say and you refer about the subjugation of nature, what is not the case for Hinduism. It's a different way of approach. Also, the how faith can mediate in conflict, and you refer also to ethics. And for that, when you refer to ethics, I need to go to next speaker. That she's Nora Lucia Caro Cabanillas. She's a member of an important NGO. It's called Global Ethics, dedicated to advancing ethical leadership worldwide. She's also a peace sustainability advocate working on this field, but it's not coming from the Asaj. I learned that you have been meditating in the past 6 years, and you are also part of these Buddhist principles that you apply in your daily life. Please go ahead. Thank you very much, Nora.
Well, thank you very much for this kind invitation to participate in this panel and to share the table with such distinguished and inspiring people and human beings. As someone who is still young and early in its career years, and who has less years of Dharma practice than my fellow neighbors here, I would like to contribute to this panel by sharing my own personal experience with the Buddhist Dharma practice, how it has shaped my own personal conviction in working in policy making for the environment and for the animals. And I would also like to share one way in which I believe we could include Dharma perspectives into policy making. So to provide a bit of context, I was born and raised in Mexico. And it was after I graduated from high school that I traveled to India. And there I had the opportunity to experience my first Buddhist meditation session, to attend my first Dharma teaching, and I was even fortunate enough to experience a live teaching given by His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And after that initial encounter with Dharma, I returned to Mexico, and I decided to explore this philosophy deeper. So I enrolled in a 6-year Buddhist program, which was not meant for me to become a Buddhist expert, but mostly to engage into this internal transformative experience. And interestingly, in that time when I started the Buddhist teachings, I started my first job as a humanitarian aid worker back in Mexico. So I was focusing on helping asylum seekers and refugees integrate into Mexican society. And I have to say that the practice of Dharma, especially the mindfulness and the practice of unconditional love, really allowed me to have more compassion and to open my heart to the people I was giving service to. And as my practice deepened throughout the months and years, I began to notice that the more I trained my mind through the Dharma teachings and the meditation, the more my moral circle expanded. So I started to feel compassion not only for people, but also for the first time for other sentient beings, right? Such as dogs, cats, squirrels, butterflies, birds, and even for other sentient beings that are often overlooked in Mexican society, such as pigs, cows, chickens, fish. And gradually I became aware to the fact that my own suffering was not exclusive to me or to other human beings, but it was also being experienced by other sentient beings with different shapes, colors, and forms. And these realizations eventually led me to begin working as an animal rights advocate in Latin America. And I was particularly trying to advocate for those animals who are enduring the most suffering, especially in factory farms, which are facilities that have proven to do a lot of harm to the environment. And well, as the Dharma teacher I've been following through my Buddhist journey, Venerable Damcho, once said in a teaching, she said that the ecological crisis we face today is not just a physical crisis, but it's also a spiritual and a civilizational crisis. It is deeply rooted in the way we relate to the world around us. So we often create a separation between the I and the world. We say things like, humans have started a war against nature, as if humans were not part of nature themselves. And she explains that this perception of separation between the self and the world leads us to see everything, so animals, ecosystems, the environment, as resources for human use. And as a result, we feel entitled to dominate, extract, and exploit, which has basically brought us to the ecological crisis we are facing today. So, given today's venue at the UN, Palais des Nations, I would like to take this opportunity to invite everybody that's here, so scholars, policymakers, thought leaders, students, and everybody, to incorporate Dharmic perspectives of interconnectedness and compassion for all sentient beings into environmental research, activism, and policymaking. And one example of how this perspective could be integrated is through, for example, and it was mentioned before, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which outlines an ambitious roadmap to stop and reverse biodiversity loss. So this multilateral environmental agreement focuses on human well-being and ecosystem resources. So while it does frame animals as components of biodiversity, it primarily addresses them in the context of threatened species conservation or as resources within discussions of sustainable use and food systems. So if we consider the Dharma perspective, which recognizes that all sentient beings experience pain and suffering, and therefore they deserve our compassion, then a framework like this could be amended to incorporate animal sentience considerations into national biodiversity strategies and action plans, and to acknowledge the synergies between animal and environmental ethics. So perspectives as the Dharmic one can effectively complement scientific research, secular policymaking, and this could be accomplished through spaces like this that promote interfaith and intercultural dialogue, and hoping to eventually develop international conventions and treaties that seek to protect our planet. And finally, I personally believe that multilateral agreements should not exist solely to benefit humans, but they should also extend beyond the human dimension. There are many voices out there, including that of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, speaking about democratic rights. So not only human rights, but also rights for the environment, rights for the animal realm. So by integrating Dharmic perspectives into policymaking, I believe we can make a meaningful step towards making this vision a reality. Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you very much, Nora, for sharing with us your experience, your journey, your dreams, your expectations, your concerns. Thank you very much, Nora. And now we have one of the most relevant moments that we are reaching, and we have, I don't know how to introduce His Holiness China Jeeyar Swami. I have to say that he belongs to a highly esteemed line of monks, of the followers of Sri Ramanuja, and also his vision is to empower communities for access to the fundamental rights like the quality education, the respect of environment, the self-confidence. As a spiritual leader, you have been reaching for years and years millions of people, and he used his voice, his reach to promote a better environmental awareness across the world. I have to say that recently, we congratulate you, all of us here, that you receive an important award by the President of India, that is the highest civilian award that is called Padma Bhushan for your services. Thank you very much for your dedication, for your commitment. And thank you very much for everything that you are doing. It's a blessing for the United Nations to have you with us. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and most revered dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. We are really privileged to be here, and thanks to Sharmaji for including us in this panel along with you all to share a few ideas and a few plans of action. There are people to fight for human rights across the world. And of course, there are some people who are there to fight for animals whom they groom, they take care of. But there are some people need it even to fight for the rights of the nature as well. And that's what we stand for and we are trying to do. We have a common saying, normally people in Bharat and of course even otherwise use, serving humanity is service to God. But we thought that probably seeded some kind of damage to the nature and environment. Man thought that he can take care of himself and can do any kind of damage to the nature or other beings. And the result we are seeing, for his own benefit, for his own growth, and for his own pleasure, man started exploiting the nature. As just now we heard from our panel of scholars and research persons and great religious leaders, industrialization started, which started causing damage not only to the soil but also to the air and to the water, to the nature in general. When we started this kind of seed, like serving humanity is service, real service to God, made damaging the nature. Industrialization caused a lot of monoxides adding to the nature. Air conditioning and air cooling, etc., started causing a lot of damage by adding chlorofluorocarbons to the air. Plastic advancement causing a lot of damage to the soil and also to the seas. Exploration of oils from the earth and exploration of the minerals, causing so much havoc like earthquakes and tsunamis in several places. So, believing in faith, believing in scriptures, understanding the scriptures is the foundation. But implementing them, practicing them, and also spreading that ideology among the people to practice is one of the most important things that we need to do. As we just heard from our friend, and also madam here, as we heard from our scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, evam pravartitam chakram, that we live in a cycle of the life. And that cycle is involved with many things in it. But each one supporting the human life, what we call the nature or biodiversified systems of the nature, are considered by our Dharmic scriptures as devatas. They never said that tree is a tree, river is a river, animal is an animal, and air is just a materialistic air. they considered them, those scriptures, what we call as the Dharmic scriptures, they named them as Devas. Devas are divine supporting systems from the nature. Each one is a divine supporting system for the survival of the life on this planet. I'm not talking about the entire universe. That is so big thing, probably a greater topic that we need not touch that. Let's confine to our mother earth in which we are living, maybe belonging to different colors, different races, different languages, and following different systems. But for all of us, Mother is our earth. And because of her, we are surviving. And we want to survive for probably some more millennia to come. And surviving from millennia also. And for that, what we need to do is what the verse from our scriptures, like Bhagavad Gita, is very clearly pinpointing that, said, Devan Bhavayata, take care of those powers of the nature. Te Deva Bhavayantu Vaha, let those powers support your life and the system. Parasparam Bhavayantaha, with a kind of mutual exchange of things. Sreya Param Avapsyatha, enjoy good future or better and brighter future. Sreya Param, that should be our well-being forever. But interesting point here is, they mentioned that the powers of the nature which are supporting the life, not necessarily the human life, but also the life of other creatures like animals, birds, trees, or microorganisms like either bacteria or fungi, etc. They are all supporting our lives, and we need to take care of them too. We are all fighting for human rights very strongly. It's a good thing because we have to start reforming from our home first, but should not stop with our home, because our home is only a part of the whole. There are many other homes, like even among the humans, if you take, and we have black people, white people, gray people, brown people, and gold people, variety of colors of people living on this planet Earth. So start from humans, that's okay. But then, man is not survived just because of the man. If only human rights are survived, are protected, that man is not going to live long. Keeping that in mind, the industrial progression started. We know the results today. Scientists are scared because there is a big hole to the ozone that supports the life on this planet. This is a result of our selfish motive of humans. So here, thank you. Here, we took care of humans but we forgot the rest of the stuff. As we just mentioned, as Lord Krishna says, Devan bhavayata. Take care of rest of the stuff, which I think nowadays is missing a lot. If you ask any question about the adversity of the nature or damage to the nature, the answer comes only man. Cutting the trees, man. Killing the animals, man. Killing the birds, man. Spoiling the soil, man. Contaminating the air, man. Polluting the water, man. Speaking lies, also man. We don't see any other creature doing this kind of things. Exploitation is okay, is needed. But if it is in its limit, a lion kills another animal for the survival, but once its stomach is full, it never touches, even a rabbit moves from the side. But man is not happy with what he needed. But the greed has no limit, and it's growing, growing, and growing. So, should we fight only for human rights? What about those devas? What about those other powers of the nature which are supporting the human life? So something is needed to be done for those natural forces that are supporting our human life is pretty much important for all of us to think, understand, and make policies for that. First of all, the seed which implanted serving humanity is service to God, I think has to be probably rooted out, because man is just like a leaf of a tree. For the sake of a leaf, don't forget the tree. Don't see that tree is spoiled. The moment tree is spoiled, this leaf also goes. So for the sake of just a human, don't forget the rest of the stuff. As Krishna said, Devan bhavayata, te deva bhavayantu, parasparam bhavayantaha. With the exchange of mutuality, I think all can prosper. Everybody can prosper. As rightly we heard, that feed the stomach and all parts of the body will be good. Not just feeding the stomach is important, right? Or not just feeding the hand is important. Though hand goes, but gives to the mouth, and mouth sends to the stomach. Stomach distributes to the whole body. And all parts are good. I think that kind of holistic approach is what our Dharmic scriptures talk about and stand for that. And hence, the first motto should be here. And if you permit me, I'll just express my way of talking about a motto. It should be a command, not a request, not a statement. It should be a command. Serve all beings as service to God. Somehow or the other, people are much yielding to the faith. Now we heard so many panelists talking about so much, and everybody is talking about some kind of faith. Yes? Everybody is talking about some kind of faith. I think any faith, if it is sincere, leads for good, collective good. And what we need is that all those faiths which are rooted from somewhere, what we call our ancestors' great practices, what we call as dharma. Dharma is what you practice, ultimately that supports you. You know the cycling when you are young and when it is needed, and that cycle supports you. We started learning walking when we were young, and even without our intention, our feet are supporting us. I think this is dharma. Dhriyate dharayati. And when you first understand and practice, that supports not only you, but helps the rest of the society around you. And hence, that first practice, seeding a perfect thought, that is what we feel, serve all beings, not only humans. You need not ignore human, because he is also a part of the whole. And take care of other beings as well. Take care of the water, don't contaminate. Take care of other creatures, don't kill them beyond requirement. And we, I think, probably have experienced things when people got upset with other sect, other section, or probably other country or other religion. They blasted some oil wells which contaminated the ocean, and millions of creatures under the waters gone. And the nature was so badly damaged when there were black rains all over the Himalayas, filled up with black rains. This is what we heard. This is what the result of the human's emotions. So, we need to first of all keep a seed saying that all beings must be taken care. A holistic approach is very much needed, and for which we have to start at some point of time. We have to start with some action plan. That is what we are trying to do in our own little way. Two things are needed: for future something, and for the time being, temporarily also some kind of treatment is needed. When there is a wound, we need to first of all dress it, and for long run we have to do something. Temporarily what can we do is we can plan and start working with it. That's what right now we are doing. And for a permanent thing, we are trying to make people understand the value of serving all beings. But you have to believe in God if you want to, in whatever way just you feel like. It doesn't mean just sticking on to God, but again come back to Dharmic scriptures like Vedas. They said the world you see all around is the divine form of that universal power. People call it God. Let them give any name, doesn't matter. Let them feel in any form, doesn't matter. But the world, you see, the mountains, the oceans, the valleys, and variety of creatures, all these are different forms of his body. But his body is the entire universe. And we are all different parts of that. I'm sure that you understand one part of the body never damages the other part of the body if it understands. When I understand that this is my hand and that is my foot and there's a thorn in my foot, the hand never says, that's your job, why should I? And our eye never says, That's your job to shed tears. Why should I? Mouth never says, why should I call for help? Mouth calls for help, eyes shed the tears, hand goes there, see the thorn is removed, and give some kind of solace to that by applying something, and all parts feel the joy. I think that is the world we have to live in. Probably we have to make it. It's not like that, unfortunately. Because as our professor said, we need to see the ground reality as well, in addition to our thought process. The ground reality is there are conflicts, there are people, there are wars, and there are so much damage is happening to the nature. So we have to work with, first of all, these things on a temporary basis, but for a long run, for a permanent solution, we need to seed the right thought also. The right thought, what I thought probably. The slogan must be, serve all beings as service to God. So if you believe in God, that's good. Some people don't believe in God, still that is good for us, because belief or the faith is not for exhibition. Belief and the faith are for evolving oneself or opening the heart. Whatever you believe in, that should promote some kind of understanding about the fellow beings, and I don't mind what religion it is. And I also like, if it is an atheism, even that also what I say, he believed that way for his own evolvement. So let him evolve that way. But end of the day, you have to live in this world. And for that living, among the human beings, we need some understanding too. To survive with the nature, we need to say that to serve all beings as service to God. But for our own sake, all human beings. Because human is the dangerous animal on the planet. As I said, all damages are done by humans only. That's why the United Nations here started coming out with the 17 rules, 17 probably aphorisms, 17 probably articles, I can say, for people to understand and practice. Right? And for among ourselves, humans, we need something which is very important, that is, worship your own, but respect all. I think this must be the policy. Whatever is mine, I need not compromise, I need not give up, I need not ignore. Practice whatever is mine, but I have to practice it, so strictly and with all sincerity. But at the same time, there are so many other people around us who have their own systems too working, and our duty is to respect them. You need not worship them, but you need to respect them. And you should not insult them, nor you have to push them down. You have to respect them. And again, the analogy is only our own body. Our own body, when we look at it, and eyes have some work, nose has some other work, mouth has some other work. And they never fight with each other. They respect the system of other organs, and all are okay. But sometimes if the nose is upset with the mouth, saying, you are only the one eating everything. I am the one breathing, but nothing is for me. Everything is to the mouth. All the drinks for the mouth, all the food for the mouth, everything is to the mouth. And if one organ disrespect the function of the other organ and feel jealous of other organ, we know well a doctor will help that person, keeping him in the hospital, pushing 2 pipelines into the nostrils and feeding the nose, because nose wanted to eat, nose wanted to drink, and so the pipes will help the nose. I don't think that such thing is good to the body. And one organ should respect the other organ, but following its own thing very rigidly. Mouth should not compromise. Only feet should walk on the ground, not hands. Hands must be up. Some people may do some kind of exercises or probably aerobics where they keep the hands down and feet up and may walk, but that is only for exhibition for some time being. That's not the normal way. Our Dharmic scriptures talk about the normal, common way of living, where one must follow one's own system. Like, I worship my father, but I respect your father. And I need not follow your father, but I respect your father. Vice versa. That is applicable even to you. You worship your father, but respect my father too. Because my mother is uneducated and your mother is highly rich and educated, she can never become my mother. And my mother is more than God to me. I need to respect your mother, but I need to worship my mother. I think if this law is understood by humans, I don't think that there won't be fightings for human rights. Because everybody is endowed with a kind of ability which they have to use for their own existence and growth, not damaging others. As we just heard from our professor again, when you want something for your growth, at the same time you should take care that you should not cause damage to the other part of the world, for which the law, I think probably maybe, worship your own, but respect all. Keeping these 2 things in view, like serve all beings as service to God, where you work with the nature and other creatures of the humans, other than the humans, and worship your own and respect all. Among humans, we started working in our own way. I'll give you just a couple of examples if you do not mind, and if you don't think that it is out of the place. We know the conflicts for the water. Probably that may be the future. So there were some kind of differences for the water between states. In Bharat, between states there were conflicts for the water. I think one state holds the water, other state suffers for the water. And how to address this? We did a small exercise in our Bharat. Like, as initially I said, we never look at the nature, we never look at the other species of the nature as they are treated by others. We take care of a river not just like water, flow of water. We consider it as a divine form of the energy that supports the life, probably commanded by the universal power. And hence we worship the rivers every day. when we take the shower, we say a word, Gange cha, Yamune chaiva, Godavari, Saraswati, Narmade, Sindhu, Kaveri, Jalesmin, Sannidhim Kuru. Though they take water from their own tap, but they consider that this is a sacred water that supports the life of millions and millions of creatures. I am blessed, O water, because of your presence and grace on me. You are purifying not just my body, also my thought and myself, the soul. This is the prayer what they do every day while they take the shower. That means water is considered as a divine being. That's where people try to protect the water from the pollution. If you take it just normal water, I use it to my need, I pollute it to the extent possible, and then I go. I never care for the next person comes for that use. So better I feel it is a divine thing, then I try to take care of that because it's a divine stuff. So in Bharat there is a custom. I think most of the world probably witnessed last year Prayag Mahakumbh. Did anybody hear that? Mahakumbh that was conducted in Prayagraj, where almost 600 to 700 million of humans from across the world took a dip in the sacred river Ganga in just 40 days. Can you believe? 40 days of time, almost 600 to 700 millions of people came to that place, took the sacred dip and felt themselves purified and left to their own places. I take this example to say what a kind of reverence that we can show to the water. It's called Pushkar in some other parts of the country, Pushkar. It comes once in a 12 years time. They think that the river and the areas where the river flows become sanctified, purified. So they take care of those areas. It's a kind of environmental awareness. They try to create, probably those great people in olden days. Such kind of thing, once in 12 years, they bestowed to every river. They wanted probably all the rivers and the areas where the rivers flow should be taken care. There are two rivers in South India which were, of course, observed with this kind of Pushkar festivals. One is the Godavari, a river. Another one is Krishna, another river. These two used to be observed once in 12 years. A festival called Pushkar, where millions of people come, take a dip, worship that water, and take a bottle full of water to their own place and distribute to everybody. No other rivers in south were never observed this kind of Pushkar festival. And we introduced that festival in Tamil Nadu to the river Kaveri. That Kaveri is in Karnataka also. Karnataka is another state. Tamil Nadu is one state. And this river flows from Karnataka to Tamil Nadu. There is a fight between both states for the sake of water. But when the Pushkar Utsav is introduced, and both the governments responded, and then they shared the waters, and so many people enjoyed that festival that came probably in 2001. And after that, in 2013, after 12 years, when it came, then we need not involve in that event. Both governments themselves announced and conducted that festival. And another festival for another river called Tungabhadra that comes from Karnataka again, that flows through a state called Telangana now. And then, it merges with some other rivers. And they never had this kind of festivals there. We introduced that festival of Pushkar for the Tungabhadra. And we introduced that during 2005. And very interestingly, and state of Telangana and state of Karnataka both accepted that festival, and they conducted the Pushkar Utsavas, because after 2005, in 2017 the same festival comes, after 12 years, right? And both states, without our interference, they made it a big festival and both celebrated together. See, water conflicts between the states, between the countries, can be resolved when you introduce some kind of divinity with it. What I say, sacredness. If you make add some kind of sacredness, it's not something you have to create and you have to add. As our Dharmic scriptures introduce such kind of ideology to all the humans, because scriptures are not limited to a person, to a nation, to a section, or to a color. They are common for all humans. Anyway, other creatures cannot read them. Only we humans can read such kind of scriptures. And if we just go through them, we can understand that te deva bhavayantu vaha. You take care of them and you will be taken care by them too. This is with regard to the water. We are trying to do something in that aspect. And then with regard to forests, we know that there are so many forests across the world. And we also know, for the sake of humans' growth, which probably many a time is being done irrationally, right? When you are probably promoting some kind of refugees from some places, those refugees growing their children exponentially and then becoming terrorists, and when they are growing so much and then living inhabitants becoming necessary, and for which the areas where the crops supporting the human life are being damaged by constructing houses for their shelter, and also industrialization, the automotive centers in those fields are established, and see, on the earth, the food giving areas are very less. Even they are also decreased. I think where man can survive, how we can grow the food. So we feel that the organizations like the UN, who want the peace should prevail and who also fight for human rights, they have to include the human rights not causing damage to the nature and other beings should be promoted. One thing. And second thing, what we feel, whatever the crop yielding areas on the earth now existing, fertile lands, what we call them, See, where there are stony areas, you can't do anything. Where there are sandy deserts, you won't be able to do much. Where there are some areas where there is just dirt, you won't be able to do anything there. There are few areas where you can grow some kind of food, maybe trees or rice, wheat or millets, whatever they may be. Very few areas are there. If possible, probably a request, maybe a command, should be sent to all the countries. Preserve those areas which are fertile at this moment. Let the number not decrease. Let those areas contract it. That means those areas which are yielding the good fruits from the air, they should not be converted to residential area. There are so many other areas where houses can be constructed and created for the people. Water can be pumped to those people. It's not a problem. But if the fertile land is reduced, then how can we grow the food? We have to depend upon the plastic to eat. Plastic rice, plastic vegetables, and everything plastic. Nowadays, of course, there are so many countries producing the plastic stuff. But that shouldn't become the food for the humans for the future. That means you have to just have a law where countries should not cross to reducing the fertile land's limits. Other areas can be used in their own way. So we are trying to deal with tribal areas. We reach to the tribal areas and we try to understand their living styles. Most of the times they worship their forests. They try to protect those forests. They try to survive in a contented way, taking care of the forests. That is where we have to promote their lifestyle. When we spread to those areas, we should not impose our stuff on them. We have to preserve their lifestyle, their way of living, and then we have to see that those areas must be protected, and for which we try to establish schools in those areas, try to give them regular education, the value-based education for them to understand the power of the nature in which they live, and then see that it is protected. And thus we have, of course, a few schools in tribal areas. And we took up another project also for those tribal people in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, in Telangana, both the states, where people living in such kind of forest areas, most of the times they don't have protected water for them. They collect the rainwater in some ponds and they only drink that water, which causes epidemic and endemic diseases for them. Most of the times, those people who suffer from some kind of problem or ill health, they don't have any doctors there in their reach. To get a doctor, they have to walk all the way from those forests, minimum of 10 miles. But how do they walk? The rest of the people, they take the carts, the carts on which people sleep. They take cart upside down and they keep them on the cart, and that cart they carry. They come to the nearby village or town where they can have a doctor. This is what's happening in many areas of the forest. So we are trying to do a little for such kind of, because as I said, we don't want to ignore humans. We have to work for the humans as well. Because first we have to work with the humans only because we are all humans. And from there we have to go to the nature. So we are trying to educate those tribal people with regular education for children, Through children, elders are also trying to learn something. Example is one school we started in a place called Allampalli, which is a dense forest. Once upon a time means till probably 2008, it was the hub of Naxalites. Do you know the name Naxalites? Like Maoists, terrorists. It was the hub of those people. And we reached that place and we started a school in that area where everybody scared us. Don't go there. They finish everything. They take away everything you put there. But till today, we started the school there in 2004. But till today, no damage was done by those people to us. And they also, of course, are slowly migrating from those places to other parts. And the place became a pure place. Now they people are getting educated almost in one area like that there. 12,000 families got benefited from one area. There are so many areas like that. So what we are trying to do, giving them protected water in those areas, because there is a first cause for their ill health. So to promote good health, we are trying to give protected water to them. And then education for those people and providing first aid treatment, how they can do by themselves. Picking up some young boys, as our friend rightly said, youth is our future. So we pick up young boys from those areas, bring them to our place, keep them with us for a couple of months, give them the first aid education, and give them the kits to carry those areas and work with those people to provide basic, fundamental health. When things are serious, anyway, they have to come to the places. This is another area. As I said, we are not ignoring the humans, and the human society is based on woman. We know it very well. We are all children of one mother, and without mother, no life. And so, woman is the center of the life, and we need to take care of women. And in India, where we are coming from, there are some problems for women. Cervical cancer and breast cancer. And we are focusing on the cervical cancer. I'm sure that you understand, women always take care of the family. And they never take care of their own health. They most of the times try to keep composed. Probably the reason is social stigma. If she is identified with any kind of problem, the family may not like, and husband may not like. A kind of social stigma is like that. And woman never spends money on her own health. In India, they spend for saris, they spend for jewelry, but they don't spend for health. And hence, we took up a project called cancer screening camps. Not using the word cancer, we started a project where we give training to the women volunteers. It's a volunteer-driven activity. And they go door to door, educate women, and invite them for screening camp, conduct the screening camp, and create a kind of awareness among them so that they can get early detection and early treatment, because cancer never gives any kind of indication like other organs provide. And hence this is a very beautiful and very, very effective system that is working in Bharat. So far, starting from 2010 till now, we have screened 3.5 million women. And the process is still going on. Otherwise, for each woman, it costs somewhere from $30 to $50 US dollars. So it's done at free of cost, or informing the things to some good-hearted supporters, taking their help. We are reaching the people, and every day, on an average, one camp is being conducted in some part of the country. It's happening even today. So this is for probably as one of the rules. What is the
SDG.
Yes. One of the sustainable development goals, taking care of the women. The project is very much appreciated by so many doctors because it's almost touching 3.5 million women, and it's an ongoing project. And for women, we are doing something. For children, to give them education, proper education, we are doing something where a few hundreds of thousand children so far were given with good moral education. In addition to their school education, that's one thing. And for tribal people, we are doing something. And for natural protection, we are doing some kind of services. All this is done on two morals, probably two systems. One, serve all beings as service to God. One, and worship your own and respect all. Probably if we understand worship your own and respect all, if we are able to make people understand this, there won't be wars between countries. People live in unison. And if you understand the other thing like serve all beings as service to God, then I don't think that we damage the nature, the other creatures. And we take care of the nature and we try to lead our lives as frugal as possible. We don't want the people to cut off their own requirements, but beyond the need, don't become greed, and see that the life of other things also will be taken care. This is what we are trying to do. And where the ideology came, because the whole Mother Earth, we look at the Mother Earth as one with life, with powerful life. We don't consider that Earth is just an inert object, because it's giving life to all of us. How can we say that there is no life in the Earth? So there is a life. So we consider our Mother Earth, and we consider it as a form of probably God. That's why it's called Devata. Devata. So the Bhagavad Gita, as rightly said, take care of them, they take care of you. And if you do not take care of them, still they are trying to take care of you to the extent possible, but there is always a saturation point. Beyond that, you see the consequences from the nature, like what happened a few days before in Netherlands, blasting the volcanoes and touching the tsunamis to the ground, and cyclones, tornadoes, so many natural disasters will happen. But I am surprised in our goals, something when there is a natural disaster, how to do something for that is not mentioned. There's nothing to talk about the natural disasters, how to address them, and how to understand them, how to respond to them. These kind of things I did not find anything among the 17. I think probably His Excellency may consider this and add something to that, so that people responsible for natural disasters also calm down and add something to the nature. We feel it is an honor, extended honors to be with you all, wonderful scholars, worked probably very seriously on many issues related to the peaceful coexistence of the life on this planet Earth, and came out with your thoughts. And we also felt like sharing our thoughts with you all, for which probably the Bharat government, gave some kind of award called Padma Bhushan. I don't think that it is given to us. It's given to all the volunteers, probably thousands and hundreds of thousands of volunteers who are working with us to fulfill these aims and objectives and goals of what we are doing. And we always are indebted to all those volunteers who are selflessly working for the cause. And some volunteers are also here, and we always adore their services, and we also expect that our UN will definitely look into this aspect of looking at the nature as a divine blessing on the human race bestowed by the Mother Earth, and how we can reciprocate something to her by taking care of other creatures as well as humans and even the inert objects, what we call inert objects of this earth, of this nature. And at the same time, if at all something damage happens, how to respond for that. Because we have seen so many disasters like that. In 2000, Gujarat earthquake. In 2015, Nepal earthquake. And in 96, there's a big cyclone in Bay of Bengal. And again in 2010, another cyclone in Bay of Bengal. And 2005, tsunami in southern part of Bharat. In all those times, our volunteers worked and constructed colonies and houses for such people who are affected. So, thinking something, just pondering on those disasters also probably, if takes some place in those goals, I think probably it may also becomes an eye-opener for people who are taking wonderful guidance from UN. And at the same time, as we requested, if possible, see that some kind of guiding lines provided to the countries across the world who are responsible for damaging the forests, for damaging the beautiful monuments which stand as the peace promoters for the humankind. Many things are being damaged like that by people for the sake of beautification. They call it a beautification and then damage things. For such things to provide, to promote, if something is done, I think we are really, really benefited, and we can do a lot to the mankind to understand. I am very happy, Your Excellency, for this wonderful sharing the dais with you, and also with these very wonderful scholars who are yes on both sides of me, and also great intellectuals like you who are just bearing with me for this long listening to my agony. Jai Shrimanarayan.
Thank you very much, His Holiness. I don't know what can I say after you. I try then to say one thing. His energy irradiates a lot of things. And then I try then to catch some feelings, some thoughts, some values that it's surround in the public, no? That the people, they feel. No? I try to find some of them. For instance, notions like commitment, frugality. You show us kindness, compassion, wisdom, tranquility, calm, faith, humility, sacredness, resilience, and patience. This is what you have shown us today.
Searching.
Searching. And then and also it's very inspiring because you have been bringing to the United Nations this sacrosanct place for diplomacy and multilateralism, the so-called devas, the voice of trees, the voice of rivers. This is maybe a new social pact for the future, to bring them on board and to coexist with us, with human beings. Thank you, His Holiness, for your words, for your thoughts, for your vision, and for your presence in this life. Thank you. And then I would like then to recognize,
Any question?
Okay, yeah. I would like to recognize that two countries that have been today coming, the Mongolia. Thank you very much, the representative of Mongolia, and also India.
Yes.
And now we are going to open the discussion for remarks from the public. Please, I have two colleagues. No, okay. And then we are going to open the discussion. It's really an honor to have this caliber of scholars, caliber of human beings. It's a great opportunity. If you have some questions or concerns that you would like to share with them, please introduce by yourself. And I have the representative of India.
Namaskar. I am Ajay from Praman Mission of India. I welcome His Holiness Chinna Swamiji to Geneva and to the United Nations. I am sure the whole gathering here must have enriched themselves from the voices that we heard from the dais, particularly His Holiness. Thank you for your all blessings and all the good words. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Nagendra Sami. This subject of environment has interested me a lot, part of my job. And about 20 years ago, with my friend from the university, we had discussions on spirituality. Out of that, I wrote something. And in that, one thing that I expected to come out more clearly from the speakers was about environment. But Swamiji finally came up with that issue at the very beginning of his speech. Well, in 16th century, a poet said, Arbad Narbad Dhandu Dhara. That is the concept of Big Bang. I want to take 2 or 3 minutes to explain that so that it fits into my question. At the Big Bang, a flow was created, big flow. All animals evolved and fitted with the environment. If they did not, they died, except the human being. Human animal was very intelligent. It not only adapted to the environment, it made environment work for him. This concept has not come out very clearly. Not only made it its own, it exploited the Mother Earth, as you say. He was greedy, as you said. He was selfish. We destroyed, well, somebody said, probably we came from another planet, a virus was put on the earth. And that virus is us. And we have spread and survived all the possible anti-virus thing. Now, if you notice now, we run everything.
Excellent. Can you go with the question, please? The question.
It's coming.
Yeah, okay.
The environment, the total flow became narrow. The human flow became big. So, our selfishness has not stopped. We invented God. We invented religions. One of them even said that God has made earth for human beings to exploit and expand the human beings. In that form, now we are beyond reach. My question, last bit, the moment we reduce the human flow, narrow it, and let the natural flow come in, we have a solution. Dharmic traditions, religions try to do that, especially in India, but they all failed. Yoga we do for selfish, our own improvement. Religions were for individual improvement. And now, big industries, they all are for human beings. How many species are lost every year? 570 species disappear from the earth every year. Now, my question is, how Dharma tradition or any other religious thinking can fit its principles to stop that human greed overall? At the individual level, you have talked a lot. That's perfect. No, I have no problem with that. How does the Dharma tradition, which means all the religions, do something to stop the human greed? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeeyar. Thank you very much. We have also the representative of Mongolia. She wants to take the floor.
The next mic or something. Could you use the next mic, please? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I'll start again. Sambano, namaste, and good afternoon to everyone. I'd like to thank, first of all, to the organizers for organizing this truly enriching discussion which resonates with us dearly. Indeed, its environmental consciousness is a subject that touches the heart of Mongolia and us Mongolians, especially as we face the mountain pressures of modern industrial development. Mongolia's landscapes, vast steppes, sacred mountains, and pristine rivers are not just physical spaces. They are part of our spiritual identity, and rooted in Tibetan Buddhism, Mongolian culture teaches us the deep truth of interdependence, that all life is connected, and to harm nature is to harm ourselves. For centuries, this wisdom guided our nomadic way of life, and nature was respected, not exploited. Spiritual practices tied to the nature and land were not mere tradition, but they were ecological ethics in action. Yet today, that harmony is under serious strain, we recognize. And nationally, we are implementing a series of measures, including the Billion Trees National Campaign launched in 2021 by the President Okhlagin Khurelsukh. And in the interest of time, I'll shorten my intervention. And we believe that if our environmental future is to be sustainable, it must be supported by education, not only in science and policy, but in values. For us, Buddhist teachings combined with the national leadership and youth empowerment offer us a hopeful and holistic way forward. And we join our voice to the call to invite everyone to care for the earth as our ancestor, our teacher, and our future through compassion, wisdom, and responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your intervention. The representative of India, Mongolia, and also Jeeyar. He raised a question about Dharma and how we can tackle the greed of human beings, no? If I understand. I don't know, somebody wants to respond? Yeah? Who? Okay. Okay, His Holiness. Yeah.
Nagiji, you talked about the Big Bang and the flow of the creation. Because we did not see that flow, so we don't talk about those things. Whether that is the origin or something is origin, that is not the need now. But as you mentioned, when there are many religions and many dharmic things, how to bring them all together? I think now probably the goal is not a religious dialogue to be conducted here, but only a dharmic discussion to be conducted. That is number one. Dharmic is nothing related to the religion. Dharma is a practice that brings people together and that doesn't harm anybody, that supports the coexistence of everyone. Such kind of practice is called dharma. So every religion has something to do for the coexistence of other beings. What after the life? I think probably keeping that topic aside, if we are able to bring all the religious leaders to a common dais, and if we ask them to give a code of conduct as how we can make together, how we can be together, how we can lead a life where each one can understand each other. If these kind of things are formulated as a few probably points, guiding points, and if we ask them to spread among their own communities, something can be done. Because if you go deep into the religions, they never come to a common platform, because each one has one's own way of understanding and acting upon. But for sure there are common things like food is common thing for everybody. Cloth is common thing for everybody. Education is common thing for everybody. Protecting the nature is common thing for everybody. Keeping those religious faiths, beliefs and practices aside, these are common requirements for everybody. So how best we will be able to provide some support for those who are deprived of this kind of common necessities fulfillment? If we are able to work on those things, to some extent, definitely we can add some good to the nature. And we always very strongly believe, if we sit together, even those religious people also, if we sit together across the table, many things are resolved. Instead of talking from a distance, or probably on online discussions and online communications, etc., if we sit together with each other and start initial activities like baby steps to start with at common goals, definitely we can pave the way for better things to happen. I think this is probably what is the need today.
Thank you, His Excellence, His Holiness, and Excellency also.
Thank you.
And then some additional comments from the floor, please, Sir.
It gives me, it's a blessing for all of us here to be, it's probably not working.
Yes, voice is good.
It looks like on. Thank you. It is definitely a blessing for all of us in the United Nations to be listening to Swami and the eminent panelists. Yeah, on talking about conflict, Dharma traditions and environmental awareness here. One point from various different, almost like seven different theologies, philosophies has been represented, and approaching it from your own perspective. When you say Nadinam Sagaro Gadigi, all rivers merge into the ocean, and irrespective of whatever channel and path each of us would be taking, irrespective of whatever philosophy and what we are trying to adapt and follow, the message of all our practices are one and the same. There was complete unison which was observable today in terms of how each Sampradaya practice and school of thought took in this approach of environmental consciousness and conflict avoidance, and also the approach of taking care of others, which will also automatically be taking on to ourselves. So that was a very key message which I took today. So thank you so much. And a special note on Acharya's point on how we would be able to need to bring in the next generation of coming up there. So probably I request Dharma Alliance, maybe if you could have some specific themes around the next generation, involve a kind of a similar program for the teenagers and for the next generation people, so that they take in their efforts to imbibe on the culture or the values the elders have been taught to them, and they are the torch bearers or the flag of how to take care of this world after we leave. Again, Srimati Ramanujaya Namaha.
Thank you, Sir. We have also a comment.
Speaking about the youth.
Youth?
Thank you very much for having us in this space. I'm Mayra Gomez. I'm from Mexico City, and I'm a climate advocate. So these topics about sustainability and how we can encourage a more path of peace with nature, for me, was very interesting and of utmost importance. Moreover, I will say that it is important to start opening the dialogue in an intergenerational equity way of thought, since we have been not only witnesses as youth and also children of the impacts of climate change, and it has completely transformed the way that we need and that we usually go to school and go through in our lives. So it is of utmost importance to remark that we need to recover the dignity relationship with nature and also encourage a vision of intergenerational dialogue with our decision makers to understand that we also need to be part of the negotiations, that we also need to be part of these decisions that are related to not only our future but also in our present. So it is only a remark that more youth need to be taking these seats, listening to this important consciousness about how we can manage, be change makers not only of nature but also of peace, and start having more impact in our communities to give into a more global scale. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for your message about dialogue, intergenerational dialogue. We are at the end. Michael Bina from the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Thank you so much. And in the interest of time, a very quick note also to support the various voices of the youth that obviously they are at the core and should be really involved in these discussions. And also the term used, rather than talking about climate change, which sounds much too nice and too positive, to use what you also alluded to in terms of intergenerational climate justice, or also from the title today, environmental consciousness. So I think here the faith-based and spiritual contributions can really be vital, and together with Dharma Alliance we have also had related peer-to-peer learning exchanges, and thank you so much for all your wisdom and sharing your experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for bringing the voice of the UN, and for you also for your experience and wisdom. We are at the end of the event. I think, I don't know, somebody on the as a panelist, they want to say something to add?
After Swamiji.
After His Holiness.
Nothing more to add.
Okay.
We add something.
Yeah, please.
It's only an addition to Mr. Michael and that fair girl. We, the grown-ups, have our own minds fixed with our background, and our family background, our national background, our educational experience, etc. But the youngsters and children are so bright nowadays across the world. I think we know very well, we are not much used to the technology, but now even the milk drinking babies also, even the breast milk drinking babies also know how to operate the technology, the phones, and they know how to just deal with them. The point is, they are so bright with regard to so many things that we see around. And when we give a chance to youth, as she said, in these kind of things to take part, come out with their ideas, etc., they come out with wonderful and very brighter ideas. And probably now the children are also becoming AI savvy. So they come out with so many brighter ideas, and hence by doing the decisions to the international community, and if UN gives a room, a priority for even youngsters to take part and contribute their peace of mind also, add something also to this, and that really adds some kind of fragrance to the hard work and strong work already just the UN is doing. and our Dharmic alliance-like organizations are trying to bring out to the common man's level. They come out with beautiful, practical ideas. And it's a wonderful thing that we have to consider. And probably all of us also, those who are dealing with this kind of social progression, and we need to first focus on this, involving youth and taking their input into our activities is very, very important. That's rightly mentioned as a representative of the UN by Mr. Michael, and so happy for that.
Thank you very much. I'm really, really impressed how maybe one of my few times in my life, personalities like you, this spiritual caliber, has been speaking without any kind of paper. Everything is coming, all the ideas are flowing. And this is really, this show that your leadership and this show your vision, and I thank very much all of you for coming from very far to this event in Geneva, and also all these great panelists, speakers, for sharing experience, sharing thoughts, and also, my friend, my dear, you are the engine of this event. Thank you very much for your passion and for your commitment. Do you want to say something? Or?
Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. It's just it's a great privilege, and thank you all. If the panelists could change photograph.
By this, we love to present a small memento to His Excellency for conducting and promoting this kind of ideology and support to all these people in this dais, from this dais. This is a statue of equality which was built and dedicated to the world in 2022 by our Honorable Prime Minister Shriman Narendra Modi ji to the world. And this is the statue of Ramanujacharya, a great saint and social reformer 1,000 years before. During 11th century, 1027 was his appearance time, and he lived for 120 years understanding the situations and people across the world. And then he was the iconic personality for equality, the racial equality, color equality, etc. even were there in those days. But he was the one made all one, saying that we are all equal before the eyes of God. That was what he said, and implemented that, and made the rulers also implement that during his time. And this is the statue which is in Hyderabad of Telangana state, which is having 216 feet of height, which is the first sitting metallic statue of the country and second sitting statue in the world. We present this, the replica of that, to His Excellency for giving this wonderful opportunity here.
Can we take my phone?
Sure.
Yeah.
This is just a brief information about it.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
And also we'd like to present another a statue of equality to our Sharmaji, who is a sole responsible person to bring us here. You please be here.
Okay.
And on this occasion, we love to invite you all to Hyderabad, which is just very near to the airport, international airport, just 15 minutes from there to the Statue of Equality. And we love to host you all there. It's not whenever you come, please visit, but make a visit for that purpose only. And we extend the invitation to His Excellency also to India and Hyderabad.
Thank you very much.
Malistan. And at the same time, we love to give a small garland. It's a normal garland, but with a message. We see many colors here, which is the world we live in, with so many colors of people and species. And each one is good by itself, as our friend said, except man. Probably a foreign virus, what he said. But if we all together, the world becomes so colorful like this. So we love to present this to all our dignitaries on the dais and also to Sriman Balaji. Sharmaji. Doctor. Vama. Balaji. Raja. And who offered us the Mahapurna Kumbham and brought us into this. And also the people who questioned, and our Michael ji. Please come. Thank you. You are very strong even at this age.
Yeah, please.
And also those to Mongolia?
She had to leave, I
okay, think. That's right. That's right. And Indian representative?